Hello and welcome to Profiles in Risk. This is your host, Tony Cañas, recording on a Saturday afternoon. I was going to say morning, but Saturday afternoon, just after the end of conference season with Mike Tansey. First of all, Mike, thank you for joining me today. How's it going?
Good, Tony. Thank you so much for having me.
My,
It's great to join you on an episode of Profiles in Risk.
my pleasure, my pleasure. So basically, today is one of those kind of different episodes. This is not an InsurTech founder interview. What we are doing today, basically, uh, Mike, you appeared out of nowhere on my LinkedIn over the last few months, and started posting some really interesting stuff. And then we connected in person. I want to say 2 weeks ago. Is that correct? What
Yeah.
was it at Rice? Yeah. So
Yep. Well, it was InsurTech Insights, but yeah, but I would say that was
insights,
probably about
insights.
two, three
Yes,
weeks ago. Yeah.
perfect. So for the listeners, we are recording on Saturday, June 29th. I finished spring conference season yesterday. So spring conference season for me this year involved coming back from Argentina, where I spent most of last year, landing in Atlanta, getting an apartment in Atlanta again, and then attending several conferences. I really haven't ran the numbers yet. I need to make a video about that. Uh, but I basically from end of March to yesterday attended several conferences, flew 10,300 and some miles. I did run the numbers on that, and I'll be making a cool video about the whole thing. And basically, Mike was one of the standout people in the industry that I connected with first online and then met in person at InsurTech Insights. Fantastic. All right. So for a little background, and by the way, we'll be basically just chatting about the future of insurance and especially recruiting and retaining the younger generation. Based on our experience, what it was like for us, what we've seen, and what we think is going to be best going forward. So basically, this is an episode with two elder millennials. I'm 41, and if I'm not mistaken, I'm just a little bit older than you are. But we're both
Yep.
elder millennials who have experienced the insurance industry in different ways in different parts of the U.S. And yet we've seen a lot of kind of the same vices the industry has. Also, for the listeners who have not been following me for a long time, this happens to be the topic that I made my name on. So the birth of Insurance Nerds, which is the blog that preceded this podcast and still exists, insnerds.com. It was basically Insurance Nerds basically started as an offshoot of the Nationwide Insurance Young Professional Group. It was called the Gen Y ARG. Myself and my co-founder Carly Burnham ran that for a while, and when we both left uh, uh, Nationwide, we ended up creating Insurance Nerds to do this for the whole industry. Then Nick Lamparelli joined. He started the podcast, and we kept going. And over time, we've always had this topic of how do we engage the younger generation very close to our hearts. Even as the content we produced has been more and more and more and more about technology, because there's so much to say about technology. I also wrote this book called Insuring Tomorrow, uh, about how to engage millennials in the insurance industry. Uh, so yeah, this is the topic that I'm very, very passionate about. Okay, so my own background, I'm a carrier guy, Midwestern carrier guy. Originally from Costa Rica, I went to school in Iowa, spent 10 years in Iowa, and that time, what I like to call corporate Tony was a lot more traditional when it comes to hair, dress, and all that, than the current, more authentic to my real self hippie Tony that has become more visible during the COVID era, post 2020. So I did uh, claims at Farm Bureau of Iowa for a year in the call center. Then I did a bunch of different roles at Nationwide, both in the Des Moines and Columbus office, and a little bit in the Scottsdale and Sacramento, California offices. did claims underwriting, sales management, and a finance leadership rotation program. And then I was a middle market underwriter for Liberty, and then I became a recruiter. Okay, so your own background, according to LinkedIn, you are from New England, right? Basically, your whole career.
Yep.
So let's start. How did you fall into insurance? So it looks like you graduated college, poli sci,
Yep.
uh, which, by the way, again for the listeners, if you're newer to insurance, we are the island of misfit toys. We
It's so
have
true.
because nobody grows up wanting to work in insurance, and there are so few insurance majors. It is a thing. It's called RMI, risk management insurance. There's only 70 programs in the US that do RMI degrees out of almost 4,000 colleges and universities. So we tend to collect people from all sorts of backgrounds. So poli sci, history, philosophy, psychology, anthropology, journalism, you name it. I have great insurance friends from all of those sites. Okay, so you get a degree in poli sci. How did you end up working at Quincy, which I think was your first professional job?
Yeah, so basically right out of college, I was looking for a job. Originally thought I wanted to do political science, but there wasn't a whole lot of opportunity at the time. I think a lot of the jobs I was looking at were canvassing for like $8 an hour at the time. This was back in 2012, so nothing I was gonna be able to save up enough money for and get out on my own anytime soon. So my mother actually worked for an agency which was owned by the company I started at, Quincy Mutual Group. And so I briefly temped there about 2, 3 months before a position opened up at Quincy, and that's where my career in insurance kind of really started, which was auto claims support and then um, auto claims handling, which
Okay.
I did that for about 2 years.
Mhm.
Then moved up to personal lines
So
underwriting.
let me pause you there. Okay,
Yeah, sure.
so Quincy is a great little regional carrier. I don't even want to
Yep.
say super regional. It's what, 4 or 5 states?
Yep. Yeah,
Yeah,
that's accurate.
and it's probably been around for 100 years. If
Yeah,
I've actually
I think maybe even since the 1860s or 1880s, somewhere around there. So yeah,
perfect.
been around quite a while.
Perfect. So this is not unusual in insurance, especially not unusual in New England, right? So we're talking something like 140, 150 year old company. I've actually visited Quincy home office in Quincy, Massachusetts, and it is beautiful. It fits perfectly well into New England and its history. Okay,
Yep.
so uh, December 2012, you start at Quincy right out of college as an auto claims adjuster. I've got to say, you actually got lucky because at around the same time, many, 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 many other young random majors around the country also fell into auto claims adjusting. I wish I had a number, but let's say I have a chances are there's at least 10,000 kids, and kids is anybody younger than me. There's at least 10,000 kids with a college degree that somewhere in the US got their first insurance job that year in 2012, 2013. But the majority of them ended up at the State Farm call center, the Allstate call center, the Nationwide call center, the Liberty call center, right? The big carrier
Yeah.
call centers. And if I had to guess, the majority of those kids are no longer with us because those jobs are really crappy jobs. Okay.
I
So
can imagine. Yeah.
I'm guessing that being an auto adjuster at Quincy in 2012, you had crappy systems, but it wasn't the call center because it's not a big enough company.
Yep. Yeah, that was the benefit I think of working with a regional carrier, and I think I also got a lot more kind of time invested in my training,
Mhm.
to kind of start to develop, a bit of an expertise in claims, before I moved on to underwriting. So yeah, there are benefits to going with some of the regional carriers in some instances.
Did somebody in your leadership in those 2 years that you were in auto say, "Hey, Mike, you would make a great underwriter. This is how you get yourself to underwriting," or how did you even figure out that going to underwriting was a better opportunity or a better fit for you?
Yeah, so I think what I found happened early on, which I really appreciated, was people, noticed that I had a certain work ethic, or that I picked up certain things quickly. So I know when I was in auto claims, there was a point where I was actually fairly new, maybe only a few months into the job, where I was asked to kind of demo. We were like updating the system, and I was asked to demo the kind of new system that was about to come out to like the head of IT and a few other members of the IT department and the AVP of claims. So that was huge for me. That kind of gave me a lot of, it made me feel valued at the organization, and then kind of gave me a lot of confidence in, like, oh wow, even though I'm just out of college, just starting at this company, I'm able to kind of demonstrate, you know, a product that I've only just started to learn myself. And so, I think I just started getting really interested when I was in auto claims at, finding ways to better understand, what it was I was providing the claim service on. So I definitely had a strong interest in, understanding the policies themselves, which definitely comes a lot more, um, from the, obviously you're applying it in claims, but in the underwriting side, it's kind of like really a deep dive into, um, the policies as a whole, whether it be home, auto, um, other lines of coverage as well.
And this was an inside claims role, not field claims role.
Correct. Yeah. So I
Yeah.
was, at desk claims.
Okay. So underwriting opportunity opens up
Yep.
and you interview and get it.
Yep.
Okay. So you go over to underwriting and you do the least millennial thing ever and you actually stay there for 5 years.
Yes, I know. I'm very,
So
very outside of the ordinary.
so number one question I get when I give my session on engaging and retaining millennials in the insurance industry is how do we get them to stay for longer?
Yeah.
And basically, like, if we could bottle up whatever it is that Quincy did or that you had internally to you to
Yep.
get the younger crowd to stay and really learn, that would be amazing. So was it you? Was it Quincy? How did they keep you there for that long? What kept you there for 5 years?
Yeah, I think I was just, I had underwriters, or like assistant underwriters on my team who, kind of took an interest in, developing me and encouraging me to kind of learn and expand my knowledge. Another great program they had that I think a lot of insurance companies can use, especially probably even more so than was the case for me with the cost of college, is they had a, tuition reimbursement program. So I was actually able to get my master's paid for. Yeah.
Okay. So yes, every carrier, just about. I mean, I don't want to say every because God knows, but
Yeah.
just about every carrier and a lot of brokers, but especially the carriers, has a tuition reimbursement program, usually for 5,250 bucks a year. So you go and you take that money and you get your master's at UMass Boston in conflict resolution.
Yep.
Uh, okay, is that okay? That's not an MBA. That
No.
what is a master's in conflict resolution?
Yeah, no, a lot of people ask that. It was kind of almost like, when I joined the program, it was, it's a broad program, but a lot of my focus in the degree was on organizational conflict,
Hmm.
and kind of around conflict, resolving that, negotiation skills, which I found very useful, in auto claims and as well in underwriting
Absolutely.
and just working with our agents. And with my poli sci background, I also had an interest in, studying, violent conflict, civil war, for example.
Hmm.
So there was also, um, a kind of international um, poli-sci sort of, as part of the global governance and human security department at UMass Boston.
Hmm.
So it was cool. I got to, focus not only on the interests I had professionally in terms of, how to better handle organizational conflict, but also invest into, other things I was passionate about outside of my career, like, my study of political science and, international organizations and conflict and whatnot.
The tuition reimbursement varies at different carriers in one way. The
Yeah.
amount is usually 50 to 50 because that's what they're allowed to deduct from taxes. Uh, there's a couple of carriers out there that have better. By the way, listeners, if you work for a carrier that gives you 10,000 a year for tuition reimbursement, take advantage of that. But 50 to 50 is the norm. Uh, but what varies is at many carriers, you need supervisor approval, or you need to prove that it is directly related to the job that you already have. Which, by the way, carriers, if you're listening, the worst possible way you can neuter your tuition reimbursement program to make sure that you get very little value out of it is by making it so that people can only take classes that are directly related to the job they already have. If they want to get further education, it's because they want to grow. Let them take the classes that will help them get elsewhere. Now, that doesn't mean that you need to pay for their masters in cooking or in underwater basket weaving, but something like conflict resolution is a perfect fit for a lot of insurance. Okay, so did you have to get supervisor approval, or was it just like a blank 50 to 50 a year? Take
Yeah,
advantage
I
of
did have to get supervisor approval. I was actually lucky that their program was 100% reimbursement
it. Mm-hmm.
for tuition, books. So, I had to initially pay up front, but I got reimbursed for the costs as long
Perfectly
as
fine.
I maintained. I think you just had to have like maybe even like a C average. It depends. Different carriers might have
That's
different
very fair.
requirements.
Very, very, very fair. So yes, that solves a lot of the uh, a lot of the mystery. How did they keep you for 5 years? They treated you well. They trained
Yeah.
you. They uh, uh, allowed you to grow from auto claims to underwriting. They paid for your freaking masters, right? Yes, this is how you keep millennials, and I'm guessing Gen Zers are going to be very similar. You invest in us. Okay,
Yep.
we were the first generation that did not show up expecting lifetime employment. Okay, but the other side of that coin is that our sense of security for the future is based on becoming more and more employable, even if the company doesn't need me next year, right? And 100 and some year old companies are unlikely to go out of business. That's the beauty of insurance. But you're not guaranteeing that you'll need me next year. You're not guaranteed. What if you get acquired, right? What
Right.
if Liberty comes and buys Quincy, and all of a sudden they just don't need us anymore, right?
Yep.
Uh, that's why we're so obsessed with investing in education. So yeah, whatever you can do to help us grow is a great way to keep us here for longer. Maybe not forever, but we will stay for longer. I want to point out you finished that master's in 2016. You didn't leave until 2019, right?
Yep.
So they got 3 extra years out of that tuition reimbursement investment. Okay, so after an incredibly long for when it comes to millennials, because apparently we are it's like dogs, right? Dog years. So 7 years for a millennial, it's like 47 for a boomer. uh, so after almost 7 years at Quincy, you move over to the agency and broker side.
Yep.
Why? What led to that move?
Yeah, I learned a lot at Quincy, but I was kind of looking for, a new opportunity to expand my knowledge in the field. I've always kind of naturally been a problem solver, someone who wants to help people. And I just found through working with my agents that I really got a lot, back. That's a lot of the value I found in the industry was helping people navigate complex insurance problems. And I realized that there was even more of a need for effective agents to be able to help consumers navigate, because there's even, more of a struggle as a consumer to understand insurance, especially nowadays. Well, why am I getting, multiple years of double digit rate increases, or restrictions on coverage, or, why am I getting non-renewed? I haven't had any claims. Like it, it's a very complex field. I think you've seen, as I do, that it's getting more and more complex. And I really kind of wanted to jump over to the agency side to both expand my knowledge of the industry, and get kind of closer to who the customer is in the equation, which is the insurance consumers, um, in helping navigate and understand their insurance.
All right. So you go to Bender Hatch, which is a brokerage. First as a private client and commercial lines account executive. So this is an interesting job title in my world, in my mind, because private client to me means high net worth personal lines. Okay.
Yep.
And commercial lines is commercial lines, right? So at most large organizations, we have some people who are private client account executives, some people who are commercial lines account executives. Very rarely does somebody get to be both. So basically, you were not selling, but rather servicing, correct me if I'm wrong, accounts both when it comes to high net worth personal lines insurance and when it comes to commercial lines.
Yeah, so when I went over initially, I was brought on to learn commercial, and I was going to help out with personal as I learned the commercial side of the industry. But one of our agency is a merger of two agencies. One of them being Nancy Z Bender Insurance, and she, started her agency back in the '80s, as a woman, which I can imagine being very hard, not really, having to break a lot of glass ceilings. And she kind of quickly identified me as someone who would work well with private client. So rather than going solely commercial, I decided to do that kind of split. And gone very well for me. I really enjoy working with the high end clients, and kind of helping other clients navigate the complex commercial, find the right coverage for their businesses.
For young professionals listening, this is one advantage, and we've now kind of seen it twice. This is one advantage of the smaller companies, that they can kind of customize the job for you. Yeah, and you can get your hands into different parts of the business based on your interest and your aptitudes. That is much harder to do for a large company, right? Uh, Liberty Mutual or Nationwide or State Farm, for example, in my world, when I got the promotion, or when I got the job and left Nationwide Claims and went to underwriting, I got a little bit of a raise, but I also went from being hourly to being salary. And I had been making good money doing cat overtime inside cat back when I was in claims. So I go over to underwriting for a minor raise to get the underwriting experience. And I said, hey, I would love to keep doing overtime for claims. And I moved in the like in the middle of cat season kind of thing. Like I had literally like I had done overtime last Friday for claims. Claims was still asking for people to do overtime to handle catastrophes in inside when my first day in underwriting came. And so I thought that it was a win-win for both of us, for both the company and myself, and said, hey, after if I my underwriting day goes from 8 to 4:30, I'm happy to put in a few more weeks of overtime claims like I've been doing. No, cannot do that at a large company. Like literally, like my new computer as an underwriter did not have access to claim systems. It was like it was mind blowing to them, the idea of somebody being able to do this. Right. Same story if you're a private client underwriter or account manager, and you want to do, you move over to commercial lines, you want to keep doing a little bit of private, forget it. It's not going to happen. At a small company, they can customize the job for you. And by the way, small companies, this is one of your key advantages to retain talent. You can customize the job to the person without breaking the system and without uh, needing to negotiate with HR for 16 years to create a new job title. So I love the fact that you had kind of that mixed role. Okay. So again, almost 5 years there. Like the proof is in the
Yep.
pudding. Like you customize the job, people stay. Okay. And then just recently, last year, you make the move to quality control supervisor. So you get the opportunity to be a people leader.
Yep.
Uh, so I'm guessing that's why you went there for the people leader opportunity, right? To get management experience. Uh, but why quality control? What was it about quality control that caught your attention?
Oh, well, I think quality control, we obviously, I think like a lot, what's going on with a lot of companies or agencies, as there is kind of a demographic graying of the industry. So we were bringing in a lot of new agents, kind of started the process of um, you know interviewing new people before our current staff start retiring, because I wanted the opportunity for some of that wisdom to be passed down. Um, and so part of why I was attracted to quality control is I wanted to take the knowledge I had of working at various different sides of the industry to kind of help the new people coming in, or help some of our existing agents be the best that they could in delivering really high quality, high value service, especially where I'd say a good amount of our clientele are those kind of high end clientele who may have different or higher expectations of what good service is. So that was something that was really important to me, and I kind of saw an opportunity to both improve our current training program, and give new employees all the tools they needed to succeed. I think some organizations, what might be a struggle is maybe not investing enough time in training, or not providing the tools for success, because if you can't do your job effectively, you're probably not going to feel very valued at the organization.
Abs- 1000%.
Yeah.
Yes. Yes. Okay. So you've now been doing this job for a year and some.
Yep.
Um, and then I just looked at LinkedIn. We connected May of this year. So we've been
Yep.
connected for a couple of months. Um, so I am curious, how did you find me, and how did we connect? Let's start there.
Yeah, it must have been through like a mutual connection. I'd had a LinkedIn for a while, but I didn't really know much about like how to use it, or how vast of a tool, and how amazing it is to be able to meet people, especially obviously such as yourself, and then maybe even
Thank you.
meet people in real life from there and develop friendships. I just kind of had a desire to find additional ways to grow my knowledge, grow my career. I think that's something I've learned, through using LinkedIn, that it's such a wealth of individuals willing to share their knowledge, and areas that maybe you're not comfortable with, but it might
Yep.
help you to know. So
Mm-hmm.
what I'd say to people, young people in the field, or really anyone, is don't be afraid to look at what other resources are out there, even outside of
Mm-hmm.
your organization, to
Mm-hmm.
grow your knowledge. I mean, I think, as you know, Tony, I've gotten in the last couple of months, I've gotten very interested in the insure side of the industry. I went to InsureTech Boston in May, and then InsureTech Insights earlier this month. So, and I actually just recently got my ticket to InsureTech to ITC Vegas. So, um, yeah, it's a very exciting field. A lot of knowledgeable people willing to share what their expertise, their experiences. That's one thing I really love about LinkedIn. So yeah, I'm pretty sure I saw you through a new uh, mutual connection, and probably something you posted grabbed my attention, or related to my
Perfect.
experience in the industry. And then the rest is history so far.
Perfect. Perfect. So for the listeners, I can't tell you how often I have people call into chatwithtony.com. Maybe I can't tell how often it's a little too strong. Okay, sometimes, let's say twice a month, maybe 3 or 4 times, maybe once a week. I log on to a Chat with Tony call, which is my free career advice service, chatwithtony.com. If I was a halfway organized human, the link for chatwithtony.com would appear here on the side, but who knows if I'll remember to do that. Okay, so chatwithtony.com, free career advice for insurance professionals. Somebody will show up. 95% of people who grab time on Chat with Tony want to change jobs. That's why they're chatting with me. Whether they want to change jobs today or whether they're trying to change jobs next year or whatever, they are looking to grow their insurance careers. Okay. So the first thing I do before getting on the phone is I open their LinkedIn and get an idea of who they are, what their background is. And then if I can't find them on LinkedIn, as soon as they get on the call, I go like, hey, Michael, thank you. Very nice to meet you. Hey, I couldn't find you on LinkedIn. And then every once in a while, it's right. They help me find them, or they give me the link on the chat. But about once a week, I have somebody going like, "Oh, I don't have a LinkedIn," and I basically like find different ways to go like, "Warning, Will Robinson! Warning, Will Robinson! If we are chatting, it's likely because you are looking to grow your career. If you're looking to grow your insurance career, you need a LinkedIn." Let's start with that. Why do you not have a LinkedIn, right? And the answers that I hear a lot are, I don't do social media. Okay, that's fine. That's good. In fact, there's a lot of research lately in the last few years that tells us that social media is not very good for you. In fact, kids and teenagers probably shouldn't be on social media. I screwed up when I helped my 11-year-old sister get on Facebook 2 or 3 years before she was supposed to, kind of thing. Maybe that explains a lot. I assume she doesn't listen to my podcast. Okay. If she does, I'm gonna be in trouble. Okay. But as an adult, I think social media is fine. Now, you don't do Insta, you don't do TikTok, you don't do Facebook, all fine. You don't do Reddit, most of people don't, that's fine. LinkedIn, for a white collar professional in the States, is a necessity. LinkedIn is not social media. LinkedIn is the best, by far, network of insurance professionals there is. You will learn a ton, and you will grow your connections. They're simply, and you are invisible to recruiters if you are not on LinkedIn. Okay,
Yeah,
cool. Number two thing I hear is, I don't want my boss to know that I'm looking. Okay, this is an old-fashioned perspective. LinkedIn is not just an online resume. It is a bit of an online resume, but in today's day and age, it's so much more. Build your LinkedIn. If your boss goes like, "Why are you on LinkedIn? Are you looking to leave?" Just be like, "No, I'm looking to learn as much as I can about insurance. And there's so many great discussions about insurance. I'll send you a couple of articles so that you see how much I'm learning." Guaranteed, you're not gonna get in trouble for having a LinkedIn. So yes, my quick link, and people, if you don't know how we can help, I can call me. I can point you in the right direction to resources to help you create a great LinkedIn. Okay, so yes, your LinkedIn today you have 500 and some connections, which, I'll be honest, is less than the average insurance professional on LinkedIn, but it makes sense because your LinkedIn was basically abandoned until recently, right?
Yep.
But you have come back with a vengeance. Okay. So I'm looking, because I've noticed you posting really good stuff. Okay. So for the listeners who are in the I don't do social media, or for whatever reason you were not active on LinkedIn, Mike, and I will include Mike's LinkedIn on the show notes, is a great example of LinkedIn done right, because you're posting interesting, thoughtful, insurance related stuff. Okay. So basically, a year ago, you posted once and then didn't post again. And then 2 months ago, you started posting, and it's now, I want to say, maybe 15 or 20 posts that are great. like absolutely great. You're sharing interesting content. You're creating some original content. You're sharing fun content from Curtis or from myself or from whoever. Um, this is the kind of thing. This is how people. This is a fantastic case study on how to start becoming a thought leader in our industry. And I guarantee, Mike, this will pay off for you.
I
That if
mean,
you
I would say it already has in some ways.
amazing,
Yeah.
amazing, and you just started.
Yeah.
And but yes, the like I don't see a single post here that is out of place. And again, I'm just browsing them quickly, but I don't see a single post that is out of place. Uh, Everything here is helping you build a solid brand. Okay, so quick question. Very quickly in the last this year, you went from realizing the industry is a lot bigger than Quincy Mutual and your brokerage to actually in person attending events. How did that
Yep.
happen? How did did it click in your mind like, hey, I should probably start attending events? And how did you decide which events? And the indiscreet question, which we can cut out if you need me to cut it out, did you manage to convince the company to pay for that travel and for those conferences, or are you doing a lot of out of pocket traveling to invest in yourself?
Yeah. So I think what got me more active on LinkedIn and kind of realizing I needed to look at like the broader, industry or kind of what was out there was just that when I started on the company side, one thing I'll say I think companies can do better um, is being willing to, send your employees to insurance conventions. That would be my one.
And I'm going to pause you on that real quick.
Yeah.
Uh, Carriers, especially,
Yeah.
are very, very, very willing. However, however, I got some advice years and years ago. I think it came from Career Tools, manager-tools.com, from their Career Tools guidance on how to negotiate salary, where they said part of the reason you negotiate salary is to get paid properly.
Yeah.
Part of the reason you negotiate salary is because in the corporate world, all other expenses are compared to your salary. So basically, if you are a $42,000 a year CSR, it's going to be very hard to convince your boss to invest a couple grand to send you to a conference. While if you're $100,000 or $150,000 underwriter, it's a lot easier
Yeah.
because that number looks a lot smaller. That like it's so silly because it's the same expense,
Right.
but it looks not that bad. So I would like to, and correct me if I'm wrong, but I would like to like add an addendum to your advice, which is companies be open-minded to send your younger slash newer, it's not a matter of age, it's a matter of experience, to send your fairly entry-level people to some sort of insurance conference, help them learn, help them grow their network, help them fall in love with insurance. How is that? Is that a fair way to put it?
Yes,
Okay,
definitely. I mean,
continue.
yep. Yeah. Just like you said, because I think that's what it's about. Because sometimes you don't realize how broad and everything that insurance touches until you start going to some of these conventions. So I came over to Bender Hatch Insurance about 6 months before the pandemic. And where I think, or at least I've found, I mean, it's hard to say, I've only worked really for one agency, but it seems like there's more of a openness to having employees go. I think on the agency side, you need to have those connections to effectively carry out your job. You need to meet your underwriters.
Mm-hmm.
Um, so, but yeah, the pandemic happened like 6 months after I started, so I didn't really get that opportunity. So I started to just kind of feel hungry to be like, I know there's more out there in this industry. I just want to learn more. I want to connect with people who are going to challenge me. I thought a lot about that uh, quote or that saying that's kind of like, if you're or what was it? Yeah, if you're kind of one of the smarter people in the room, you're in the wrong room. So I was like, I want to surround myself with people who are light years ahead of me so that I can like, wow, I didn't think of things like that, or oh wow, I didn't realize that this was something that the industry is engaged in. I think the tech side, what excites me most is a lot of the issues that I think have caused anxiety for our generation, like climate change. I found, well, there are a lot of techs out there who are coming into the industry to bridge the gap between consumers and insurance carriers, or consumers and insurance agencies, in addressing the effects of climate change, and how catastrophic claims are on the rise, likely as a result of that.
So, you, yes, agreed. And I don't think that I think that that you had already understood before your first conference. You had already understood that insurance is interesting because we have a reputation for being boring, and a lot of entry level jobs in our industry are boring. Okay, but would it be fair to say? I don't want to put words in your mouth, but would it be fair to say that if you had thought that insurance was boring, and then you had the opportunity to attend a couple of great events this year, that it would have really helped you see how fascinating this industry is?
Oh yes, I mean that's something I think that's important. To be able to provide those opportunities. Because I'll be honest with you, Tony, there was probably a point about 4 or 5 years into my insurance career where I was actively looking for how to get out of the industry
It's very
because,
common.
yep. And I think moving on to a new opportunity kind of breathed new life into my excitement about the industry.
So I interrupted it because why were you looking? When you did decide to look outside of the industry, which I think we all went through that just about,
Yep.
what was it that was pushing you to look?
I think I didn't feel as like engaged or maybe invested in the industry, that I didn't really have a whole lot of opportunities to expand my knowledge. I'd expressed a desire to learn more or take on additional responsibilities, and that opportunity wasn't really provided. So that's part of the reason kind of I started to look outside of the industry, which then eventually obviously shifted to another opportunity within the industry. So I think, one thing, I believe you've mentioned this before, either in our discussions or in your book, about the importance of kind of cross training people within the industry, or providing opportunities
Mhm,
to, work with other departments, even if you're not able to kind of change a role at the time,
mhm.
because I think it's a way to keep people who might have a constant hunger for knowledge or growth to be able to learn other aspects of the company, of the organization, of the industry in general.
Rotation programs, uh,
Yes.
I am a huge fan of, and I'm literally looking to see which chapter rotation programs was, but there is a chapter in the book about rotation programs. Uh, Rotation programs are kind of the best of the best, and the best of the best you can do to for your young employees to really learn and to really fall in love with insurance and fall in love with the company. They're expensive. They're hard. They require having some slack, meaning having some uh, level of inefficiency because you're rotating people around instead of letting them
Yep.
get good at the thing you hired them to, or to from the beginning. But in the long term, they create so much better people, so much better insurance professionals who are so much more engaged. Uh, but it's okay if you can't do a rotation program. Job shadow
Yep.
programs, uh, anything that tuition, well-designed tuition reimbursement programs, in-house training for things that you don't require for your current role. All those
Mm.
things are very helpful. Leadership development programs, and I've been through both types. I went through Nationwide's financial leadership rotation program, which was you move on from the job you were at, and this is now your job for a couple of years. Didn't go well for me because I suck at finance. The leadership piece was fantastic, but it's a great program. And then later, as a sales manager in the Allied office, which is now Nationwide, in Sacramento, I also went through Allied's emerging leaders program, which was not a you leave your job and go to a whole new different job. It was more like an extracurricular. It was more like let's say an 8-month program that you applied to, and then like once a week, half the day, you meet with everybody that's going through the program, and you're all from different jobs in the company, kind of thing. And there's a mentorship piece to it. There's other like it's a really well designed program. Those kind of programs go a very long way to helping people grow and to keeping them with the company. By the way, when I say keeping them with the company, I don't mean keeping them in the company forever. I mean keeping them with the company for long enough that you get your money back for hire them. For long enough that it wasn't just this constant churn of hire, train, and lose people.
Yep.
Right. Doesn't mean lifetime because you're not promising them lifetime employment. All right. So the conferences, you ended up going to 2 or 3?
2 so far. I've gone to
Okay, so
InsurTech Boston and InsurTech in Insights, which
okay.
is in New York
So
City.
strong focus on InsurTech conferences. Okay.
Yep.
Perfect. Okay. So there's not a ton of agents at
I've
InsurTech
noticed.
conferences, right? Um, what was the experience like at both of those conferences? I was at Insights. That's where we met, and I've done Insights. I think every year they've done it in New York. I have not done InsurTech Boston, but I've done InsurTech Insert City here
Yep.
in like 15 cities. So how were those experiences?
Oh, they were great. InsurTech Boston's probably one of the smaller ones. It took place at the House of Blues, but I still had an opportunity to kind of meet a lot of really great people
Mm-hmm.
from not just other parts of the country, but the world. There are a lot of people there from the UK, and they were showing me kind of some of the apps that their organizations use. Like one that happened to work with motorcycle riders, and they had the ability to just kind of constantly be tracking the rider, identifying if there'd been a crash, kind of quickly addressing it. A lot of it was probably around telematics and whatnot, but really cool programs like that. And then I also was actually able to meet someone who had a technology that sounded attractive for our commercial lines team at Bender Hatch. And through about a month or two of working to try and get that one across, we're about to start partnering with them,
This
which
this is important. Okay, this is amazing.
yeah,
Okay, and this goes both for management and for talent, for young employees or new employees. Okay, how do we get the best ROI from that investment of having somebody go to a conference, right? One of the best practices is number one, uh set expectations up front. Hey, yes, we will pay for you to go to this conference. And hey, by the way, you're gonna be like one of the lower level people there
yeah,
compared to most of the people because we invest in our young employees. So
yep,
congrats on that. And hey, you could just go and party your butt off and not actually go to any sessions, and right, especially if it's in a fun city away from home. Uh, and if you do that, then you're gonna have nothing to tell us when you get back, and then we
yep,
probably won't want to send you again, right, to other things. On the other hand, if you go to the sessions, if you take notes, if you bring back interesting stuff to show the rest of the agents, the rest of the of the carrier, uh, uh, if you help us understand what, if you come back with a summary of what you learned,
Yeah.
we will be much more uh likely to continue doing this with you,
Yeah.
right? It'd be awesome if this conversation was had explicitly, um and yeah, give them the chance to go and do it. So did Bender Hatch say, come back and tell us what you learned, we'll pay for it, come back and tell us what you learned, or did you just intuitively figure
Yeah.
that I
So
should probably come back and
yeah, I kind of intuitively figured, and I sort of reverse engineered it
look
as being
smart?
like, well, I went to this and here's what I gained. Here are my notes. Here's some programs I'm looking at that might help us streamline processes or automate certain processes. So what I think came out really well from it, and I think kind of the message I'd say to people is that networking at these conventions can help you deliver greater value to the organizations you're already working for. And so that's kind of how I presented it. And what came out, what was really good about it is initially there was no explicit conversation beforehand, but I was able to get reimbursed for a majority of my expenses. And also, I think the organization has seen a value in it. And so that now they're supportive of me, going to one uh, local conference and one um, travel conference a year where they're not going to deduct PTO and they'll, at least cover some, if not all, of my expenses. So, when you kind of start to put yourself out there, even if you're initially kind of taking the cost on yourself, you
Mm-hmm.
might be able to, after the fact, make the case, hey, I went to this. Here's the value I think that it's added. Here's, I'm going to share my notes with you. I'm going to share what I'm looking at. I'm going to follow up with these companies and see, if it's a potential technology that could give us a quick return on investment. And so, yeah, there's a lot to be gained, and a lot of ways you can excel within your existing organization. So even if you're not looking for a career change, there is a lot of value to networking and going to these conferences and making sure you have a LinkedIn and utilizing it, starting to engage. It's a really exciting space as well, um, to meet people.
This is fantastic. This is truly fantastic advice. Uh, truly fantastic advice. Uh, that this industry can really benefit from. All right, so we talked about the conference, what you brought back, and I'm a big believer that in the 21st century employment contract, unwritten employment contract, it's no longer an exchange of loyalty from the employee in exchange for lifetime employment from the employer, because that's just not the way things work anymore. It's much better in insurance than elsewhere, but still, I think that the exchange is much more a fair month's pay for a fair month's work, and the employer gives me access to tools that will help me build a parachute to have on my back in case they no longer need me next year, kind of thing.
Yep.
uh and uh let me I've been writing a book for years, a about how to grow your insurance career, and the book is premised on the idea of growing your insurance career as a three-legged stool, a tripod. One leg is experience. Experience only comes with time. One leg is education. Education can be done fairly quickly. One leg is networking. Um, and conferences hit two of those legs pretty strongly. Um, but there was something else I wanted to add to it. Conferences, education. Kind of lost my train of thought. Okay. But yes, this is a great way for companies to better keep, to better engage, to up their chances of retaining for another couple of years. Okay.
Yep.
To the leadership, if you invest in your young professionals the way that first Quincy and then Bender Hatch invested in Mike, you are much likely, much more likely to keep them and growing and have them be ambassadors for you than if you call centerize the place and treat them like fifth graders, like many large carriers have done at some levels of the company. And for the talent, for the employees, for the young professional, or then I keep saying young, but it's not a matter of age. It's a matter
Yep.
of being new to the industry. Okay. For the fairly new insurance professional, if you want to grow your career, which you should, this is a really good way to do it. Invest in your education, invest in your networking, going to conferences. I know where I was going. Okay, so the three-legged stool, I think that's going to remain, but I need to add an idea. I need to make a video about this. I'm sure that there's a certain percentage of revenue. If we think of a company,
Yep.
if we think of a company, I'm sure that Harvard has to have some research. Right? There must be some Harvard Business Review paper or article or MIT or whatever about, hey, world-class companies invest 12%. I don't know what the percentage is going to be, but X% of revenue into R&D, into research and development. And when they stop doing that, they start declining, right? I need to look up the numbers. I think that idea can be imported almost whole cloth, copied into careers in the 21st century, meaning that even if you are unlucky enough to right now work at a small agency that will not pay for your CPCU, or a medium-sized agency or carrier that will not pay for you to go to one conference a year or whatever, like if they're not willing to invest in you, you should probably invest in you, right? And the, a predecessor to chatwithtony.com was when I was still at Nationwide, and there I used Yammer, the in-house social network. Yammer is now owned by Microsoft, but the in-house social network Yammer to start to it's how I grew the Gen Y group. And one of the things I did when somebody posted that they were frustrated, or when somebody posted that they were interested in CPCU, I would send them a direct message and say, "Hey, let's chat. I'll point you in the right direction," which is what I do now at chatwithtony.com. Okay. There was a conversation that I will never forget. This young lady was in the San Antonio, Texas office. San Antonio, Texas office is a giant call center. That's why they put it in San Antonio, because it's a cheap city to have a call center in. Okay. She had been with the company for about 5 years. I had been with the company for about 2 years. My career was growing a lot faster than hers. She had been stuck in the same call center for the whole time. We both had a college degree. We were both Latinos. Really, the only difference between us it was that my career was growing and hers was not. Okay. I don't remember her name. I don't know what happened with her afterwards. So she was interested in CPCU. I messaged her and said, "Hey, we should schedule that time to chat." And since I could see on Yammer and on the company director that she was an MCR1, meaning a member care representative 1, meaning the lowest level of the call center at that time, I knew from experience that it was much better for her if we scheduled this call outside of work hours, so that the time wouldn't count against her time on call stats, which for reference, I absolutely hate. And if this is the way you run your call centers, give me a call and let's try to dissuade you from doing it this way. Okay. But anyway, I knew that it was gonna that this half an hour conversation was gonna be counted as a negative for her if we did it during work hours. Not for me, I was salary, but for her. Okay. And the reply to my message, when I said yes, when would it work for you? It'd be better for you if we do it outside of business hours. That's okay with me. Her reply was, "Oh, I'm not willing to have a work related conversation outside of work hours." I love that your expression changed. Basically, and you're a millennial, so this reference should work. I felt like Neo in the Matrix. Okay, I can only pull you out if your brain is still fresh enough that it is willing to accept that the Matrix is not reality, right? She had unfortunately drank the Kool-Aid and thought of herself as an hourly employee. She was an hourly employee. I had been an hourly employee a year and a half before. Uh, she thought of herself as an hourly employee, and by thinking of herself as an hourly employee, she was unwilling to work outside of her hours, even though in this case that work was getting all the hints and tips to grow her career so that she would no longer be an hourly employee, right? I could not pull her out of the matrix, right?
Yeah.
There are people who quite simply you can't. So, people, regardless of how little you're making at this point, because you're likely not very well paid if you're at the point where the company will pay for nothing related to your growth, um, it makes sense to invest X percentage. I don't know what that percentage is yet. I'm guessing 10% is a good way to put it. It makes sense to invest 10% of your income into growing your career. If you disagree with anything, let me know. All right. All right. All right. What else? Oh, so at the conferences, at the two conferences you went to, I'm guessing that you actually went to see some of the sessions, which I'm really bad at nowadays. Sometimes I do, but often I'm just there networking, and I get distracted doing magic or whatever. So given that it was InsurTech conferences, a lot of the sessions were about technology. What
Yep.
really stuck with you when it comes to, so you have learned a lot about the
Yeah.
technology that is changing our industry. What are the key things you that stuck with you?
Yeah, I think some of the key things that stuck with me, I think of this one frequently. I don't know who kind of coined this one, but I'm sure it's made the rounds. But because I've had some people ask me like, "Oh, is AI going to replace insurance agents?" And I think if the one major takeaway I took away from that is AI isn't going to replace agents, but agents who utilize AI are going to replace agents that do not.
And
That that's probably my biggest takeaway.
and in 1.5 conferences, when I say 1.5, what I mean is InsurTech Boston is like a 1 day event, right?
Yeah,
Um,
exactly.
so in 1.5 conferences, you brilliantly understood what it's taken some of us 14 years of conference. uh, yes, no, the AI talk we've really only been having for the last like 18 months, but
Yep.
this applies to agents, this applies to carriers, this applies to every white collar employee. My brother-in-law in the healthcare IT healthcare management space always reminds us it's not AI is going to take your job. It's another human with AI is going to take your job. So start playing with AI now,
Yep.
right? In fact, that's what they said yesterday in my last conference of the season in Dig In. A great speaker yesterday, I can't remember who it was, but a great speaker said, when asked, what career advice do you have during the age of AI, said, AI is not going to take your job. Another human with AI is going to take your job. So
Yep.
today, right away, download one of the Gen AI apps on your phone and start playing with it.
Yep.
Right? And like that download Chat GPT 4.0, literally 4 O, like the letter O, because they're being creative, which just came out, onto your phone, the free version, and play with it. Play with it at work,
Mm. Well,
right?
it's interesting you say that because that's what I started doing before I was like, "Hey, I need to learn about more about this technology side of the industry." Is I was there was definitely a fear, I think, probably companies, but also within agencies. Like again, it's the AI is going to replace us, um, and so I was like, you know what? I can't also be someone who's going to be afraid to start to delve into this. So that's what I did. I downloaded Chat GPT, started playing with it. That's what actually got me kind of posting on LinkedIn. At first I was kind of playing off Chat GPT. And then as I became more comfortable, I started crafting more, yeah, unique content, based on a lot of my own ideas. But even so, some people were like, "Oh, you shouldn't use ChatGPT for this or that." But it's a tool. It's all on how you use it and how you use it effectively. Um, and that's what really opened me up to, again, just being like, okay, I want to check out more in relation to how technology can improve our industry. At the time it was like, oh, how can I utilize these technologies, for myself? And then it became, well, hey, this is a great technology. There's got to be others out there that could be specific to the industry. Because I think what's going on now, especially with the hard market, is that it's becoming harder and harder, um, for agents to probably stay on top of their work or to not get bogged down in the mundane work that takes away from, I think, what a lot of us really enjoy in the industry, which is the human side, forming
Mhm.
relationships, educating people about their coverages, helping them through a hardship that arises. That where insurance comes into play. So I see AI as creating the opportunity to turn insurance into a more human experience.
Beautiful, beautiful. I do have to say, even before AI, the industry has been talking about the end of the agency,
Yeah.
like agents going away, at least since the dot-com bubble
Yeah.
when we were in middle school. At
Yeah.
least since the dot-com bubble, probably before, the industry has been periodically talking about agents going away. Hint, they are not. However, uh, I believe personal lines, like just standard personal lines, not high net worth, it's going to get more and more automated. That goes for both the agency and the carrier side, and and uh, jobs that are very clerical. So if you are younger than 50 and your job requires no decision making, like if your job title is processing, or it could be processing, uh and you do not make decisions in any way, shape, or form, you just type things into a computer, or move things from one computer program to another because they're not talking to each other right now, uh then you are in danger. That job will get automated away eventually. Invest in yourself. Take advantage of that tuition reimbursement. Get your CPCU network. Uh, grow your career, because that job will not exist for the next 30 years, guaranteed. Okay. So, okay. What happened there? I hit the computer cable, and the computer went like that. But because I have the virtual background, it looks like I'm the one moving, right? Okay. So we have been recording for, I believe, a little over an hour, which means I've made you 5 minutes late. Good thing we're recording 8 minutes late. Good thing we're recording on Saturday. I don't want to get you in trouble with the wife, the dog, the cat, and the ridiculously awesome dual chromatic, or dog with the
Oh,
tie.
heterochromia.
If you if for Thank you, heterochromia. For the listeners who don't know what I'm talking about, go look at Mike's post from June 26th, because this is way cute. So anyway, a real pleasure chatting today. Uh, I'm glad we did it on a Saturday. I think that it was a great match for the for the type of conversation.
Yep.
Have a fantastic weekend. Thank you for coming on the show today.
Yeah, thank you so much for having me, Tony. I've thoroughly enjoyed my time here, and I greatly appreciate the opportunity to share my insights.